Champ now.
Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, Champ?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talking. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time during my career, I was on a Bomber of the Month tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
Well, you've been on the tour.
What's happening, my people? It's Cast Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Historian bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Welcome to another episode of Cast Sports, the Box Historian. Today, big men of the 90s, Louis, Holyfield, Tyson, BOWE. Lennox the Lion Lewis, the real deal Evander Holyfield, Iron Mike Tyson, and last but certainly not least, Big Daddy Riddick Bowe. How's the family today? Yeah, we're going to talk about these four great heavyweights. Today, we're going to talk about their great careers, talk about the matchups between them, and we're going to talk about the matchups that didn't happen between them and why they didn't happen. We're going to talk about how significant their careers were to the sport of boxing, their legacy, all that coming up today on Cast Sports, the Box Historian, bringing you all that boxing history. Okay? But first, for the first half hour of the show today, we're going to do the highlights of boxing history as usual. And today, it's going to be the 10 best boxers of the 1990s. Since we're focusing on these heavyweights, we're going to do the overall 10 best boxers of the 1990s as ranked by skill. Okay? That's significant, as ranked by skill. Because you know what skills does? Skills pays our bills. That's right. As Thomas Hill would say, skills pay the Mickey Fricky bills. Okay? And you know, you're talking about skillful boxers in the 90s. Cornell Sweet Pea Whitaker, Roy Jones, Mark Too Sharp Johnson. I don't think Too Sharp reached his full potential for two main reasons. One, he fought down in those lower weight classes, and nobody down there gets their props. If Too Sharp had been like lightweight, welterweight, he'd be a household name when you're talking top 10 all time. Too Sharp would definitely be in the conversation, but you know, he fought down in the lower weight classes. A lot of people don't follow that, don't go that low. And number two, Too Sharp, some of the matchups he didn't get, you know. I hate to throw the D word around, but he was a little ducked. Okay, I hate to bring that D word into it, but some of them ducked him. A lot of them didn't want to fight Too Sharp. He didn't fight Humberto Gonzalez. He didn't fight Michael Carvajal. He didn't fight Rosendo Alvarez. He didn't fight the great Ricardo Lopez. So yeah, those names would have strengthened his career a whole lot, you know. But you know, he still had a great career in the Hall of Fame. So he's going to be one of these 10 skillful boxers we talk about in the highlights of boxing history. 10 best boxers of the 1990s as ranked by skill. Okay, but how's everyone today? It's Tuesday. We're still early in this big week of boxing history. Okay, still working on tomorrow's show, but I know Thursday, the Boxing in the State series continued. We're going to do Washington, D.C. It's not a state, but you know, I know they applied for statehood a few years back. I don't know what the status of that is, but it's a district. But still had a good boxing history and some great boxers to come out of Washington, D.C. So that's Thursday. Boxing in the States, the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. Okay? And we only got a couple more. We went all the way through the alphabet with these, every state in alphabetical order in the country. And I hope you learned some stuff. I learned a few things from it. Crush the Legend in the building. What's up, Crush the Legend? 6 a.m. Monday through Friday. The best early morning show in the land. Crush the Legend, bringing us those fire Sean Combs updates. Like I tell you, you know, you got all those lawyers doing the updates, but Crush's updates are better. Because guess what? Those lawyers don't know that hip-hop background like Crush does. So yeah. Check out Crush the Legend, 6 a.m. Monday through Friday. Get your Sean Combs updates and a lot of other stuff over there. Salute Crush the Legend in the building. Yeah, let's get started with the highlights of boxing history today. It's going to be 10 best boxers of the 1990s as ranked by skill. So without further ado, the highlights of boxing history for today. Just Do Boxing in the building. Coming up at 4 p.m. That's who I'm warming you up for. Just Do gonna bring us that balanced, unbiased boxing talk. Okay? You get every situation and you get it right. Everybody gets their Just Do at Just Do Boxing. Salute Just Do. Okay? Highlights of boxing history today. The 10 best boxers of the 1990s as ranked by skill. Okay, let's get into that. Tuesday, still early in this big week of boxing history. All right, 10 best boxers of the 1990s as ranked by skill. There's three of them right there. Roy Jones on the left, Sweet Pea in the middle, and JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez, on the right. Now, Success in boxing doesn't come from universal traits, but rather being more talented than others. The boxers like Mark Too Sharp Johnson, The Real Deal, Evander Holyfield, and James Lights Out Tony were top talents of the 1990s. Now, the physical gifts that fighters like Terry Norris and Arthur De La Hoya had made them stand out in the sport of boxing. Boxing is a unique sport because fighters with different shapes, sizes, and skill sets are able to succeed. Now, while there is no universal trait that guarantees success, it certainly helps to be more talented than others. Many of the sport's top fighters stood out during the 1990s, which was an important period in boxing because they were simply more talented than the rest. Many stars of this era were unrivaled in skill and could be world champions today if they fought in this era. Okay, let's get into it. Top 10 boxers of the 1990s. Start out with Mark Too Sharp Johnson. Is Too Sharp on the right. Look like a straight right hand. Okay, Mark Too Sharp Johnson. Now, Mark Johnson was certainly too sharp for his opponents. Johnson's tricky southpaw style was tough to solve. The Hall of Famer never received the stardom he should have due to his weight class, as well as personal and promotional issues. And like I was saying, he didn't get a lot of the big names in there that would have strengthened his legacy. Now, former flyweight and junior bantamweight champion Mark Johnson was one of the best fighters in the lower weight class. That's another reason why he didn't get his props, because he was down in those lower weight classes. A lot of people don't go below like lightweight or featherweight. They don't even know this weight class is below 126, right? And Mark was down there like 108, 112. So yeah, all those guys down there don't get the just due. Right, those guys down in those lower weight classes do not get their just due. Okay. Now, former flyweight and junior bantamweight champion Mark Johnson was one of the best fighters in the lower weight classes. A fast southpaw, Johnson didn't rely on defense as many would expect. He was pretty aggressive with good power and an excellent jab. Johnson was a good inside fighter as well. He was skilled defensively with excellent reflexes to dip and dodge punches. And Too Sharp had a 49 fight career. He won 44, lost 5, 28 by the knockout route. Okay, Mark Too Sharp Johnson. Next, The Real Deal, Evander Holyfield. Talking about some of the top fighters of the 90s. Now, Evander Holyfield was a tremendous puncher. Holyfield was the undisputed cruiserweight and heavyweight champion. Excuse me. Cruiserweight and heavyweight champion, undisputed. Now, Holyfield would eventually become the first boxer to win world titles in the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000. First one to win titles in 3 decades. Now, Evander Holyfield had a devastating arsenal of hooks and uppercuts that finished opponents. One of his only flaws was his occasional slow starts that put him behind on the cards. However, the Hall of Famer faced many of his peers during peak, including Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Big George Foreman, and Riddick Bowe. And Holyfield had 56 fights in his career. He won 44, lost 10, 2 draws, 29 by way of knockout. Talking about some great fighters from the 90s. How about James Lights Out Tony? Lights Out. James Tony was extremely gifted. Tony reigned as linear middleweight champion before winning the IBF super middleweight and cruiserweight titles. Okay, 3-division champion James Tony. Lights out. Now, any question about James Tony involved his conditioning. as he was clearly one of the most talented fighters in the sport of boxing in his era. Okay? The master of the shoulder roll. Tony is one of the best defensive boxers of all time. Tony also had a strong chin and used frequent head movement. Despite facing big punches like Roy Jones, as well as Sim Rockman and Samuel Peter at heavyweight, Tony was never knocked out during his career. Tony was also a great counterpuncher, willing to fight backwards and wait for openings. Once Tony found gaps, he had the power to take advantage. Lights Out. And Lights Out had 90 fights on the dot. He won 77, lost 10, 3 draws, 47 knockouts. Lights Out. James Lights Out Tony. Next. Terrible Terry Norris. We're talking about some of the great fighters of the 1990s. Terrible Terry Norris. Terry Norris was fast and quick. Norris may have taken his power and speed combo for granted. Norris realized that his physical gifts were overwhelming, which meant that he coasted against lesser fighters sometimes. Junior middleweight champion Terry Norris had a devastating left hook. Norris defeated fellow Hall of Famers Sugar Ray Leonard and Donald Curry, as well as former world champions Meldrick Taylor and Jorge Vaca. Norris suffered a couple of upset losses, notably against Simon Brown, because he wasn't always as focused as he should be. But Norris had 56 fights. He won 47, lost 9, 31 by way of knockout. Talking about some of the great fighters of the 1990s, as ranked by skill. The Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya was boxing's cash king. De La Hoya was a 6th division world champion. De La Hoya possessed a sharp jab that opened up the rest of his attack. While De La Hoya often gets credit for how he changed the business side of boxing, he is one of the best ever in the 135 to 147 pound division. De La Hoya was a big puncher at lower weights, but he was also technically sound. While not the fastest, De La Hoya was a good boxer who knew how to use his footwork to create angles. Oscar, and everybody know about that fire resume. 45 fight career. He won 39, lost 6, 30 knockouts for a knockout ratio of 76.9%. Not bad, up there around 80. The Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. Some of the top names from the 1990s. Top 5. Tito. Felix Tito Trinidad. Felix Tito Trinidad. Felix Trinidad was a versatile fighter. Okay? Trinidad knew when to use his height to stay outside. Now, while Trinidad is known for his brutal knockouts, he was far from a brawler and a better boxer than he was given credit for. Tito Trinidad ruled as welterweight champion for over 7 years during the 90s before moving up and winning titles at junior middleweight and middleweight. A childhood prodigy, Trinidad turned pro before his 18th birthday. He eventually grew to 5'11" with a 72-inch reach, which gave him a height and reach advantage for most of his fights at welterweight. Now, Trinidad knew when to use his height and box while looking for openings, and when to attack with the thunder he possessed in both hands. And Tito had a total of 45 fights during his career. He won 42 with just 3 losses, 35 knockouts. For Tito had a 83.3% knockout ratio. Not bad, not bad at all. Tito, Felix Tito Trinidad. Next, JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez. Julio Cesar Chavez had a ruthless body attack. Chavez was the lineal lightweight and junior welterweight champion. Chavez mastered the art of body punching along with a high-pressure style. Constant pressure and a strong chin were the foundation for Julio Cesar Chavez. Chavez may not have had devastating one-punch knockout power, but his body attack constantly wore down opponents. Chavez could handle any style. He cut the ring off against boxers and forced them to engage, or he'd welcome facing another pressure fighter. So he could use his superior chin to keep moving forward and eventually wear them down. If you want to know a young fighter want to know how to cut the ring off, look at some video of Julio Cesar Chavez. And he had 115 fights in his career, 107 wins, just 6 losses, 2 draws, 86 knockouts. And he came out the gate 89-0. And check this out, 115 fights, still had an 80.3% knockout ratio. Incredible. JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez, one of the greats of the 1990s. The great Ricardo Lopez, Benito, that's him on the left, Benito. Ricardo Lopez had flawless technique. Lopez was the mini flyweight kingpin, 105, almost ruled for the entire decade of the 90s. Vacated like October 99 to move up to junior flyweight. Lopez's mastery of angles is what allowed him to accumulate knockouts. Ricardo Lopez was a master boxer with excellent footwork. Lopez worked off a strong jab and straight right hand. Lopez used his footwork to control the center of the ring and keep his opponents off balance. Now, while Lopez was a solid puncher, his greatness came from unmatched timing, footwork, and counterpunching. And Lopez was 51-0 with 1 draw, 38 knockouts. And what's incredible, the man never lost in the amateurs either. So he never lost in his life, okay? Finito, the great Ricardo Lopez. And at number 2, Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. Now, Roy Jones Jr. is one of boxing's most exciting fighters ever. Jones Jr. has the athleticism to overcome fundamental breakdowns. Roy Jones Jr. had physical gift that made it look like he wasn't even trying at times. Roy Jones Jr. had the speed and timing to dominate from middleweight all the way to heavyweight. Jones was often criticized for not focusing on the fundamentals, but he showed great timing and movement to generate all of those explosive shots. Jones Jr.'s fights became must-see events because he could stop his opponent at any moment, okay? And Roy Jones had a total of 76 fights in his career, 66 wins, 10 losses, 47 by way of knockout. And number 1 for the 90s is ranked by skill, none other than Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Victoria Thomas says salute to America. That's miscast under her government name, Victoria Thomas. Salute to America. Okay. Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker was a defensive whiz. Sweet Pea had just enough power to keep his opponents alert. You wasn't going to run up in there on Sweet Pea any kind of way. They say he had no power, but nobody ran up in there any kind of way on Sweet Pea. He had enough to keep him alert. Now, Whitaker drew against Julio Cesar Chavez in a fight many observers felt that he won. 4-division world champion and Hall of Famer Pernell Whitaker constantly frustrated his opponents with his ability to land and then get out of range, land and disappear. It was a common sight during Whitaker's fights to see his opponents lunging helplessly at him, trying to hit what's already gone, swinging that air. Whitaker's uncanny ability to frustrate aggressive fighters and diffuse power has led to arguments that his controversial decision losses to Oscar De La Hoya and Jose Luis Ramirez were robberies. Okay, yeah, most robbed man in history. Him and the Drunken Master. You know, the Drunken Master. Can't think of his name right now, but I'll tell you later. But Sweet Pea had a total of 45 fights in his career. He won 40, lost 4, 1 draw, 17 knockouts. Didn't have a whole lot of power, but he had enough to keep him alert. They wasn't going to run up in there any kind of way on Sweet Pea. No. Okay, there you have it. 10 of the top fighters of the 1990s. Now let's get to the show. We're going to talk about big men of the 90s. Lennox the Lion Lewis, the Real Deal Evander Holyfield, Iron Mike Tyson, and Big Daddy Riddick Bowe. Yes, sir. Last but certainly not least, Big Daddy. There you go. That's not no kind of significance having Holyfield bigger than the others, but that was the only pitch I could find up on for a minute. Yeah. But they all 4 in it. So let's go with today's show. After I drop the notes down, the sounds down a little bit. But how's everybody this Tuesday afternoon? We are still early in this big week of boxing history. This is Cass Sports, the Box Historian, bringing you all that boxing history. Okay, let's talk about these heavyweights, 4 of the greats from the 1990s. I would say the 4 top heavyweights in the 90s. Okay, let me refresh the chat because yesterday I had a whole lot of people come in and I wasn't even paying attention. There we go. Yeah, the last one was Victoria Thomas. Salute to America. That's Miss Cass. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Lennox first, right? And who was the last great heavyweight boxing champion? Okay. Who was the last great heavyweight boxing champion? Was it Lennox? Let's see. Let's talk about it. Okay. Who was the last great heavyweight boxing champion? 228, almost made it to 230 on the dot. But how's everybody today? You know, it's still early in this week. We got, I don't know what we got this weekend, but we got some fights. Well, we're getting close to June, and June got that big DB3 card. Abdullah Mason back in there, stepping up to take on Jeremiah Nakathila. That'll be his biggest tough to date, but I think the youngster will pass it. Okay. Ramamura Tyler stopped Nakathila in the second round, so I think Abdullah will make short work of him. Styles make fights. So we'll see. That's coming up next month. I think Tank and Lamont Roach not in June anymore, right? Everybody paying more attention to Tank and Jake Paul than he is Tank and Lamont Roach, the real fight. Tank and Jake Paul should be on Barnum and Bailey Circus the next time they come to town, right? Over in the tent over there somewhere, that fight. That'll be the first Tank fight I haven't bought in years. Definitely. But Jay Hardcore said it's probably free because it's on, Netflix. Still might not watch it. Jake Paul said the fight, I think I saw on Just Dude's show last week, Jake Paul said the fight gonna be at 190. And the hell Tank gonna weigh 190? He'll be a little fat guy. 5'4" at 190. Come on, man. Come on. Now, you know, Tank is one of my favorites, but I'm not a fanboy. When I don't like it, I'll call it out. I do not like that one. But hey, they're gonna make a lot of money, and that's what it's all about. They're trying to get paid. So, hey, have at it. I just won't be a part of it. Okay, but how's everybody this Tuesday? We're gonna talk about these 4 great heavyweights from the 90s. So far we got Just Do Boxing, Crush the Legend, Miss Cass. And those are 2 great channels, Just Do Boxing and Crush the Legend. Of course, Crush the Legend, 6 o'clock a.m. Monday through Friday. Just Do Boxing right after me. That's who I'm warming you up for, 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Okay? Let's bring the coffee and the donuts. Just That Balanced Unbiased Boxing Talk, and it's 2:30. I was stalling. Who was the last great heavyweight boxing champion, though? Okay, let's find out. It's Lennox and the two Klitschko brothers right there. Three of the last great ones. Before this era, of course, Usyk is undisputed now, but Usyk is really a blown-up cruiserweight. Back in that era, Usyk probably wouldn't dare go past cruiserweight. Or can you imagine Usyk in the 70s against Ali, Frazier, Foreman, Holmes, Shavers, all them guys? No, Usyk would have stayed at light heavyweight because they didn't have cruiserweight then. Joe Frazier would have chewed Usyk up, you know? And Usyk could not keep Joe Frazier away. And I'm not just talking about power, his footwork and movement. Joe Frazier forced Ali to stand and fight. So, you know, damn well, he would have cut the ring off on Usyk. He made Ali stand and fight it. So Usyk would not have been able to stay away from Joe Frazier. But let's talk about this. Who was the last great heavyweight champion? It has been nearly 20 years, 2 decades, before Usyk became undisputed. So that was since the last great heavyweight boxing champion strode to the ring. And that last great champion was the last undisputed and unified boxing champion, the great Lennox the Lion Lewis. Talking about before this current era, okay? Lennox the Lion was the last great heavyweight champion. Now, the Lion was the last undisputed champion and a legitimate Hall of Famer. Lennox Lewis is hard to rank in the all-time heavyweight rankings, but one thing is absolutely certain, that he is without question a deserving member of the Hall of Fame, an all-time great, and the last great and undisputed heavyweight champion, Lennox Lewis. Now, Lennox beat every man he ever faced, avenging his 2 knockout losses with emphatic destruction of both men in the rematches. Lennox defeated every professional opponent he faced, one of only 3 world heavyweight champions to do so, with Rocky Marciano and Ingemar Johansson being the other 2. That's lofty company, 2 all-time greats, Rocky Marciano and Ingemar Johansson. Lennox is one of only 3 people to defeat every person he ever faced, avenging both his losses. Now, 3 fighters retired after losing to Lewis: Andrew Gerard, Noel Qualis, and Zeljko Mavrovic. Okay? Now, Lewis had very real power, right? Even if he is remembered most for being a great fundamental and technical boxer, right? He recorded 5 first-round knockouts and 15 knockouts within the first 3 rounds. That's power. Getting them out of there early like that. That's 20 in the first 3 rounds, 5 in the first. Okay? The Olympic gold medal winning Lennox Lewis is in the Hall of Fame. And as Emanuel Stewart said, his trainer, Emanuel Stewart said, Lennox is the most complete big man to ever compete in boxing. The first of the true super heavyweights, Lewis was 6'5" tall, a rock solid 250 pounds, with an 84-inch reach, an inch longer than Wilder's. He was a truly outstanding boxer with athletic ability, excellent fundamentals, great footwork, an educated, heavy, vicious jab, and power in both hands. Yeah, Lennox had power in both hands, okay? Lewis was an ultra-cautious boxer, puncher, who used his huge size and 84-inch reach to keep opponents at bay with a pole axe left jab and a potent, deadly counter right hand, okay? Now, however, Lennox was highly adaptable. When Vitaly Klitschko was beating Lennox to the punch in his last fight before retirement, Lennox moved inside and beat the hell out of Klitschko with a vicious inside fighting style, okay? Made the adjustment. You know, Vitaly was beating him to the punch from outside. Lennox went inside on him and dominated him. And Lewis faced, among others, Hall of Famers Holyfield, Vitaly Klitschko, Mike Tyson, and then highly respected contenders like David Tua and Henry Akawande, and former champions Shannon Briggs, Frank Bruno, Tony Tucker, and Donovan Razor Ruddock, among others. Okay? Among others. Yeah, Lewis had like everybody back around that range, had a great resume. Okay? Now, Lewis is undefeated, 3-0-1, 2 knockouts against fellow Hall of Fame members. He won against Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, and Vitaly Klitschko. He faced 3-0 against Hall of Famers, okay? Fellow Hall of Famers. He faced a wide variety of styles in his career and defeated every opponent he ever faced. Even those two who before Emanuel Stewart improved his defense, who had knocked him out, he beat up and knocked both out in rematches. You know, that was, if he would have had Emanuel Stewart then, he probably wouldn't have lost them two. That was pre-Emanuel Stewart, his two losses. After Emanuel came on board, he never lost again. And the two fighters that beat him with Emanuel in the rematches, he destroyed both of them. Okay? Not just beat him, destroyed them. And he's the last undisputed heavyweight champion before this era, right? Now, a whole generation passed, and the Lion remains the last undisputed king of the heavyweights, right? An entire generation passed before we got another undisputed champion. Now, the Klitschkos were great fighters, but not great champions, right? Now, we're going to get some screams from the Klitschko fans. Both were legitimate great fighters, but neither was the last great heavyweight boxing champion because both held parts of the title, and it was never unified, nor was either the undisputed champion, right? The Klitschkos were champions at the same time. Neither was undisputed, right? The plain, unvarnished truth is that all of Vladimir's claims at the most championship fights and years as champion fail for two reasons. Number one, Vladimir never unified the title. And unlike Larry Holmes, who also refused to play the alphabet game, while Larry was clearly the best in the division, Vladimir was not. The plain, blunt fact is that Vladimir held his part of the title for so long because his brother promised their mother the two brothers would never fight. If they had fought, his brother would have beat Vladimir, but they promised their mother they would never fight each other. Now, I can understand that. Now, the friendship card, I don't understand that. But brothers, nah, y'all shouldn't fight. Although Jamel Charlo said if the money right, he'd get in there with Jamal today or tomorrow. Jamal like, no, he wouldn't fight his brother, but Jamel said, shit, the money right, I'll fight you. Mm-hmm. Now, Vitaly would have beat Vladimir, as Emanuel Stewart very quietly admitted, even when he was training Vladimir. You cannot claim either brother was the last great heavyweight unanimous, when the last great heavyweight champion, when both of them held a part of the title, and they showed no interest in determining which was better. But they promised their mother, so I can understand that. Now, Vladimir might have hit harder than his brother, but he was nowhere near as tough as Vitaly. He had no inside game as Vitaly did, and surprisingly, Chris Bird, who amazingly fought both back-to-back in 2000, says on his record, Vladimir was simply not as good as a technical boxer as his brother. Yeah, Chris Bird fought him back-to-back. You know, he beat Vladimir, and then Vitaly came in and got revenge for his little brother, you know, and beat Chris Bird, okay? Okay? Yeah, but Chris Bird should know he fought him back-to-back. Yes, he did. Now, Vladimir had to protect the chin. He was down at least 12 times against 6 fighters, some of whom were journeymen, right? He went down against Ross Purity. How many people heard of Ross Purity? He knocked Vladimir down. Now, Vitaly was never down in his career, and Vitaly had a chin of iron. Vladimir, with Vitaly's chin, probably would have been undefeated. Now, Vitaly did not hit as hard as his brother, but he was eons tougher, according to Chris Bird, who fought him back to back. He had a decent inside game and better technical fundamental boxing skills than his brother. And he had a chin of iron, and like I said, was never down in his career, right? Mike Rim in the building. What's up, Mike Rim? Talking about these great heavyweights today. And why Lennox was the last great heavyweight champion before this era. We had the Klitschko's in between Lennox and this era, but no, they were never undisputed because they held the belts at the same time. Let's salute Mike Rim. Yeah, we're going to touch on Lennox, Holyfield, Tyson, and BOWE today, okay? So let's continue. Now, Vladimir legitimately lost 4 fights by knockout, while Vitaly was never knocked down, let alone out. The only 2 fights Vitaly lost, one was because a severely torn rotator cuff left him with one arm, and the other was a war with Lennox Lewis, where he lost because his face was cut to pieces in an inside battle, and Vitaly was ahead on all 3 cards. Now, Chris Bird says Vladimir used his jab and grab to protect his chin, whereas Vitaly, who didn't need to protect the chin, would just tee off on an opponent. Now, none of the modern stooges deserve the title of great, and only Fury deserves the title of even good, okay? Usyk is a blown-up cruiserweight. I'm talking about heavyweights. This is the only era Usyk would have been a heavyweight in, okay? Only era he would have been a heavyweight in. So I'm not even worried about Usyk. Now, Larry Holmes says his best about the current heavyweights. They couldn't fight me. I'd have knocked their ass out. Come on. They can't take a punch. They're amateurs. To me, they're amateurs. To Ali, they're amateurs. To Ken Norton, they're amateurs. To Joe Frazier, they're amateurs. To us, they're kids. They can't fight. They didn't learn how to fight. We learned how to fight. That's what Larry Holmes said about this current era of heavyweights. And that was not the only interview Larry Holmes gave about Anthony Joshua and his fellow heavyweights, right? We beat these guys up. We beat them up. They don't have the abilities that we had, and that is so true. Okay. And just some of the guys in this era, like Fury. Tyson Holmes was blunt about fighting Tyson Fury. Holmes said, I would have knocked Fury out. I would have hit him in the body, head, then circled around. Hit him with right hands and left hooks. I'm not going to stand there and trade with Fury like Wilder did. Wilder not only can't box, but also has no ring sense whatsoever. And Wilder has not learned one thing since he got beat in the Olympics. Okay? Never got no better. The first good fighter that Wilder beat under age 40 beat him like a Missouri mule. Now, Wilder never had one fight for the undisputed title, and not one fight against the unacknowledged number 1 contender. Wilder fought 40 dishwashers, an old man, and Tyson Fury, who beat him like a red-headed stepchild. And then you see what Joseph Parker and Zilly Zhang did to him. Eddie Hearn, in an interview with Sky Sport in November of 2019, called Wilder a terrible boxer. He's very limited as a fighter skill-wise. Dan Raphael said of Wilder, his flaws were always evident, but he was able to match them with his devastating right hand, right? But the flaws were always there. In his last couple of fights, he got exposed. And then there's Anthony Joshua, who has size, power, and good fundamentals, and no chin, and no ring sense at all. Larry Holmes sums up Anthony Joshua best. Larry Holmes just simply said, my era would have dominated the likes of Anthony Joshua. Yeah. Simple as that. And the great Joe Louis said it best in a Jack Blackburn quote in his autobiography. If you get whipped by somebody who's a bum, that makes you a bum. And that's not me, that's Joe Louis calling them bums, okay? Anthony Joshua got stopped by Andy Ruiz, remember? So the bottom line, if you want the last great heavyweight champion, you need to go back 20 years to the great Lennox the Lion Lewis. Lennox was the last great undisputed heavyweight champion. Bottom line, both Klitschko's deserve to be ranked among the best heavyweights of all time, though not in the top 10. But neither is the last great heavyweight champion, because they never unified the title. And there was no undisputed champion. Also, virtually all experts believe Vitaly could have defeated his brother, including Vladimir's own trainer, Emanuel Stewart, right? Lennox Lewis stands alone as the last great heavyweight champion, okay? Lennox the Lion Lewis. Okay, so now let's talk about who would have won, Lennox Lewis or Riddick Bowe? They never fought, but who would have won that? Lennox or Riddick Bowe? Okay, let's talk about that. Hope I didn't make anybody too mad. Let's try to listen. Just call balls and strikes over here. Usyk is not a great heavyweight champion. He's a great cruiserweight champion. This is the only era Usyk could fight as heavyweight. Back in the 70s, didn't have cruiserweight. Usyk wouldn't have dared come past light heavyweight because he couldn't beat nobody at heavyweight, right? He just couldn't. So who would have won between Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe? Who would have won that fight? Lennox or Riddick? Let's talk about that. Okay. Lennox or Riddick? Who would have won that one? Okay, anything going on in the chat? Okay. Now, the hypothetical matchup between Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe is a popular topic among boxing fans, as both fighters were elite heavyweights in the 1990s, right? And there they are right there. Now, Lennox Lewis was known for his technical skill, powerful jab, and strong right hand. He had a solid amateur background, including winning a gold medal at the 1988 Olympics, and he became a 3-time world heavyweight champion at the pro level. Lewis was also known for his ability to adapt during fights and his resilience, okay? Now, Riddick Bowe, on the other hand, was celebrated for his exceptional combination of size, speed, and boxing ability. He was a 2-time heavyweight champion and is famous for his trilogy with Evander Holyfield, where he won their first match in a thrilling contest. Now, Bowe had a powerful left hook and was known for his aggressive style. So, Define Arnie One. What's up, Define Arnie One? Talking about these 4 great 1990s heavyweights, okay? Salute Define Arnie One. we're talking about the Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe matchup, which never happened. Okay, what would have happened if it had happened? Okay, now, in terms of a matchup between these two, Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis, many analysts believe that Lewis's height, 6'5", and reach, 84 inches, would give him an advantage in controlling the distance with his jab and counterpunching ability against Bowe. Now, Lewis's tactical approach and experience against a variety of opponents might also play a crucial role. Now, Bowe's strengths would lie in his ability to pressure Lewis and engage in exchanges, where his combinations could potentially overwhelm Lewis. However, Bowe's defensive skills were sometimes questioned, which could leave him vulnerable to Lewis's counterattacks. But overall, while it's impossible to definitively say who would win, many fans and analysts lean towards Lewis due to his technical prowess and ability to fight at range. However, Bowe's talent and power would always make him a dangerous opponent in any matchup, okay? So what were their most notable fights during their careers? Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe. Let's look at their most notable fights during their careers. Okay, Holyfield was their biggest common opponent. Might have been their only common opponent. Now here are some of the most notable fights from Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe's careers. First, Lennox Lewis, okay? Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield, 1999. A highly anticipated unification fight that ended in a very controversial draw. Both fighters showcased their skills, but the decision left fans divided. Lennox Lewis versus Mike Tyson, 2002. Now, this fight was a major event, with Lewis winning by knockout in the 8th round. It solidified his status as the heavyweight champion and marked a significant moment in boxing history. Lennox Lewis versus Vitaly Klitschko, 2003. Now, Lewis won the fight by TKO in the 6th round, but it was highly competitive. Klitschko was ahead on all the scorecards before the fight was stopped due to a cut, okay? Lennox Lewis versus Sim Rockman, 2001, because he was stopped in the first fight. Now, Lewis avenged his shocking loss to Rockman by knocking him out in the 4th round, reclaiming his heavyweight titles. Yet Rockman shockingly stopped Lewis in the first fight, but Lewis avenged it. He stopped Rockman in the second one. What's up, Mike Masick? Salute. Just talking about these 4 great 1990s heavyweights. Probably the 4 top heavyweights of the 1990s, I would say. Okay. But some other good ones, but you know. Big George wasn't the Big George of the... Now, Big George had been the Big George of the 70s. He would be right at the top, but nah. He wasn't the Big George of the 70s. But he did win a title. So, hey, you know, deserves mentioning. Now, Riddick Bowe. Look at Riddick Bowe's some of his top fights. Riddick Bowe versus Evander Holyfield, 1992. Now, this was a classic fight where Bowe won the heavyweight championship in a thrilling back-and-forth battle. Bowe knocked Holyfield down in the 6th round and won by a unanimous decision. Riddick Bowe versus Holyfield 2, 1993. This rematch was another intense encounter, with Bowe winning by split decision. It featured dramatic moments and showcased both fighters' skills. Riddick Bowe versus Andrew Golota, 1996. I think that was one, but they both ended on low blows, right? Andrew Golota just kept going south of the border on Bowe and got disqualified both times. And he was winning both fights, both times at the time of the disqualification. He just didn't like Bowe. Now, Bowe faced Golota in a fight marred by controversy. Bowe was losing until Golota was disqualified for low blows, allowing Bowe to retain his title. And I believe they had a riot. Riddick Bowe versus Lennox Lewis, 1992. Planned, but never happened. They did have a fight signed in 1994, though. They did actually have a fight signed in 1994. But then Lennox Lewis lost to McCall, and then the promoters wouldn't put up the money because, they lost a lot of the luster when Lennox Lewis lost to McCall. He should have just went straight to the BOWE fight. But, he thought he could beat McCall, and McCall knocked him out, remember? So that's when the BOWE and Lennox Lewis fight lost its luster. It never happened. But they did have a fight signed in 1994. Now, though they were both champions, a major fight between them never materialized, which adds to the intrigue of their rivalry. Now, both fighters had incredible careers, and their notable fights helped shape the heavyweight division during their era. Okay? Now, how did their fighting styles differ in the ring? Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe. How did their fighting styles differ in the ring? Al Booger. What's up, Al Booger? How you doing today, bro? Just talking about these great heavyweights from the 90s, that's all. Now, how did Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe styles differ in the ring? We're talking about what would have happened if these two would have fought. Now, Bowe threw the belt in the trash in 92. But a lot of people say duck Lewis, but no, he had a fight signed with Lewis in 94. But like I just said, when Lennox Lewis took the fight with McCall before the BOWE fight, when he lost to McCall, the BOWE fight lost its luster and never happened. Like I said, maybe Lewis should have went straight to BOWE and not had that McCall fight. But nobody thought Oliver McCall would beat Lennox. So hey, hindsight is 20/20 vision, right? But how did their fighting styles differ? Now, Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe had distinct fighting styles that reflected their strengths and strategies. Lennox Lewis, technical skill. Now, Lewis was known for his boxing IQ and technical proficiency. He utilized a strong jab to control distance and set up powerful right hands. Defensive strategy. Lewis employed a more cautious defensive style, using his height and reach to keep opponents at bay. Counterpunching. Lewis was an effective counterpuncher, able to capitalize on opponents' mistakes and land powerful shots. Adaptability. Lewis could adjust his tactics mid-fight, making him versatile against different styles. Now let's look at Riddick Bowe's style. Aggressive approach. Both favored an aggressive pressure fighting style, often moving forward to engage opponents in exchanges. Combination punching. Bowe was known for his ability to throw rapid combinations, mixing hooks and uppercuts very effectively. Inside fighting. Bowe excelled in close quarters, using his size and strength to dominate opponents in close. Now, less defensive focus. Now, while Bowe had good skills, his defense was not as refined as Lewis's, which sometimes left him open to counter shots. And Lennox was a good counterpuncher, remember? Now, in essence, Lewis preferred a more measured tactical approach, while Bowe strived on aggression and volume punching. This contrast could have made their fight particularly intriguing, with Lewis's range and technique against Bowe's relentless pressure and combination work. Okay, and finally, between these two, what impact did the Lewis-Bowe rivalry have on boxing history, although it didn't happen? Okay, what impact did it have on boxing history? Okay, let's talk about that. Now, excuse me. The rivalry between Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe had a significant impact on boxing history for several reasons, even though it didn't happen. Unification of titles. Now, both fighters held major heavyweight titles during their careers. Their rivalry highlighted the fragmentation of the heavyweight division in the 1990s, as they were among the top fighters who never faced each other in the ring, despite calls for a unification fight. Okay? Legacy and recognition. Now, the lack of a Lewis-Bowe fight left fans and analysts debating who was the better fighter. This uncertainty contributed to the narrative surrounding both fighters' legacies, influencing how they are remembered in boxing history. Yeah. A lot of times, the fights you don't have frames your legacy just as much as the fights you have. And the lack of a BOWE Lewis fight is definitely part of their legacies, man. Because we're talking about it today, the lack of a Lewis BOWE fight, right? So, promotional dynamics. Now, their rivalry illustrated the complexities of boxing promotions and politics, as BOWE's team famously rejected a deal to fight Lewis in 1992, which could have unified the heavyweight titles. This decision affected the careers of both fighters and the direction of the entire heavyweight division. Okay, yes it did. And the shift in heavyweight landscape. Now, the Lewis-BOWE rivalry occurred during a time when the heavyweight division was transitioning. Lewis's eventual rise to dominance post-BOWE was crucial in shaping the future of heavyweight boxing, leading to a new era of champions. Fan engagement. Ant McQueen, what's up, Ant McQueen? Ant says, looking at Riddick Bowe, the boxing source does resemble him a bit. Okay, told you, Ant McQueen don't. He's always listening, but he don't comment much. But when he comments, it's something significant. Okay, it's worth reading twice. Ant says, looking at Riddick Bowe, the boxing source does resemble him a bit. Okay, salute Ant McQueen. Okay, now let's continue. We was talking about the significance of a BOWE Lewis fight not happening. Okay? Yeah, like I just said, sometimes the fights you don't have shape your legacy too. Yes, they do. Now, fan engagement. Now, the intense speculation and debate about who would win fueled interest in heavyweight boxing during the 1990s, keeping fans engaged and passionate about the sport. Okay? Yeah. Influence on future matchups. And the BOWE Lewis rivalry set a precedent for future heavyweight matchups, emphasizing the importance of making high-stakes fights happen. It also led to the discussions about the importance of fighters facing their top competition to solidify their legacies. Okay? It also led to discussions about the importance of fighters facing their top competitors to solidify their legacy. That is very, very, very significant statement right there. In summary, while Lewis and BOWE never met in the ring, their rivalry significantly influenced the heavyweight division, fan engagement, and the overall narrative of boxing in that era. Okay, yes it did. Lennox Lewis and wait a minute now. Say Lennox Bowe and Riddick Lewis. Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe. Okay. Yeah, that was their fight not happening sparked a lot of conversation. Still, like I said, we're talking about it today. Right? So, next. Why was Evander Holyfield such a nightmare matchup for Mike Tyson? Okay, glad y'all asked. Why was Evander Holyfield such a nightmare for Mike Tyson? Okay, thanks for the question. Let's talk about that. Why Evander was such a nightmare matchup for Tyson. Why is that up there? Okay, there we go. Why? Why was it? That wasn't defined, Arnie. Why was Evander Holyfield such a nightmare matchup for Mike Tyson? Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, we're going to definitely get some link time today on this. Okay, now, why was Evander such a nightmare for Mike? What is that, man? I got my, excuse me for, like, 30 seconds. I got my grandkids and people out there. They are raising a ruckus out there. I'm on the air. 1 second. Count from 30 backwards to 0. I'll be back by this. Okay. All right, I'm black. Let's continue. Yeah, why was Evander Holyfield such a matchup nightmare for Iron Mike Tyson? Find only one says, Aunt McQueen, always great to see you. Oh, he just greeting Aunt. He said, I was checking some Orlando Canizales for the recommendation. That dude is awesome. Yeah, Orlando Canizales. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, why was Evander such a matchup nightmare for Iron Mike? Nobody left. Okay. Now, Evander Holyfield was considered a matchup nightmare for Mike Tyson for several reasons. Okay. Number one, style and strategy. Now, Holyfield's boxing style was characterized by his ability to absorb punches and counter effectively. He was known for his resilience and tactical intelligence, which allowed him to withstand Tyson's aggressive onslaught and find openings to exploit. Okay. Number two, physical attributes. Now, although Holyfield was smaller in stature compared to Tyson, he had a significant reach advantage, and his weight and strength, especially in the cruiserweight division, allowed him to engage Tyson in close quarters, where he could use his clinching and inside fighting skills, although they fought at heavyweight. Number three, mental toughness. That was real significant and key. Holyfield's mental toughness, right? Because that's what Tyson preyed on a lot. You know, the mental aspect of the fight, right? And Holyfield's mental toughness was very significant. Holyfield possessed a strong mental fortitude that enabled him to stay calm under pressure. This psychological edge was crucial in dealing with Tyson's intimidating presence and aggressive style, allowing Holyfield to execute his game plan effectively. Yeah, that was a big one there, Holyfield's mental toughness. You know, reason why he was such a matchup nightmare for Mike. Mike couldn't intimidate Evander at all. Number four, counter-punching ability. Now, Holyfield was an excellent counter-puncher, which allowed him to capitalize on Tyson's aggressive advances. Holyfield was adept at slipping punches and delivering powerful counters, making it difficult for Tyson to maintain his rhythm and momentum, right? Another big, these are reasons why Holyfield was such a nightmare for Mike, right? He beat him up that first fight, remember? So, number five, stamina and conditioning. Okay, stamina and conditioning. Holyfield's exceptional conditioning allowed him to maintain a high work rate throughout the fights, right? This endurance was vital in wearing Tyson down, particularly to the later rounds when Tyson was known to tire. Number 6, experience against aggressive fighters. Holyfield had faced and defeated several aggressive fighters throughout his career before Tyson, which helped him develop strategies to neutralize their strengths. His experience in dealing with pressure fighters made him more prepared to face Tyson, right? In their notable fights, particularly in the 1996 and 1997 fights, Holyfield's ability to absorb and counter Tyson's power, along with his strategic execution, led to his wins, solidified his status as a challenging opponent for Tyson. Okay? Now, what were some key moments from their fights that showcased Holyfield's advantages over Tyson? Some key moments in those fights that showcased Evander's advantages over Mike. Now, in their fights, several key moments highlighted Evander Holyfield's advantages over Mike Tyson. Number 1, the first round of their first fight, 1996, first round of the first fight. Holyfield started strong, using effective jabs and movement to disrupt Tyson's rhythm. This set the tone for the fight, showing that he could compete right from the beginning. Okay, that was key. Holyfield came right out and used effective jabs and movement and disrupted Mike's rhythm right from the jump. And that set the tone, not only for that fight, but for the other two, right? For the other fight. Mm-hmm. Number 2, clinch work. This was huge also. Clinch work. Okay? Now, throughout both fights, I said 2, but I only had 2. I meant the other fight. Yeah, when he set the tone in that first round of the first fight, that not only set the tone for that fight, but it set the tone for the next fight too, right? Now, throughout both fights, Holyfield utilized clinching effectively. That's part of it. He would wrap up Tyson to neutralize his powerful punches, demonstrating his ability to control the distance and pace, which frustrated Tyson, okay? Counter-punching in the later rounds of the first fight. Now, Holyfield landed several significant counter punches as Tyson lunged in. This showcased Holyfield's timing and ability to capitalize on Tyson's aggressive style. Yeah, Holyfield did a great job at that, capitalizing on Mike's aggressive style. You all saw the fight. He did a very good job at that. Number 4, body shots. Okay. Holyfield targeted Tyson's body consistently, weakening him as the fight progressed. This strategy paid off by reducing Tyson's energy and effectiveness in the later rounds. And Mike already faded in the later rounds, and that body attack just added to it. Significant. Number 5, endurance. Holyfield's stamina was evident as the fight wore on. While Tyson began to tire, Holyfield maintained his energy, allowing him to outlast Tyson and take control in the later rounds. Okay, now that was the 96. Now the 1997 rematch. Now some of those things that we talked about just now in the 96 fight was significant in the 97 fight too. Like when Holyfield came out that first round and disrupted Mike's rhythm and stuff by his jabs and his movement. That became significant in the second fight. But let's talk about the 97 rematch, the bite fight. The bite fight, okay? That's what it became known as, the bite fight, for obvious reasons. Now, in the 1997 fight, Holyfield absorbed Tyson's early aggression and continued to execute his game plan. Holyfield's ability to withstand Tyson's initial attacks ultimately frustrated Tyson, leading to the infamous biting incident right? Tyson blamed it on the headbutts, but he was frustrated by a lot more than those headbutts. Okay, just anybody that saw the fights saw why he was so frustrated. Now, these moments collectively showcase Holyfield's tactical acumen, resilience, and ability to exploit Tyson's weakness, contributing to his success in their fight. Yep. And finally, on those two, what other fighters have had success against Tyson using similar strategies to what Holyfield used? Okay. What other fighters use similar strategies to what Evander used to have success against Mike? Okay. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Okay. Yeah. The question was, what other fighters have had success against Tyson using similar strategies to Holyfield? Glad y'all asked. Okay. Okay, bear with me for one moment. I done hit something. I got it back. I'm always hitting something. See, I'm left-handed, so I put my right hand in my pocket. Okay. Now, several fighters have found success against Mike Tyson using strategies similar to the same tactics that Holyfield used. Number one, James Quick Tillis in his 1986 fight against Tyson. He lost, but Tillis utilized his jab and movement to keep Tyson at bay, effectively frustrating him and extending the fight. Okay. Tony Tucker, 1987. Tucker employed a solid jab and strong defense, using his reach advantage to disrupt Tyson's rhythm, similar to how Holyfield did in the first round of the first fight. And Lennox Lewis in the 2002 fight against Tyson. Lewis showcased excellent lateral movement, reach, and counterpunching, keeping Tyson at a distance and controlling the pace of the fight. And you know this one is on here. Couldn't leave him off. Buster Douglas. You're talking about people that use similar to Holyfield. And this was before Holyfield. Buster Douglas. Right? Now, Buster Douglas' famous upset in 1990 featured effective jabbing, beautiful jabbing, and movement, allowing him to stay off the ropes and land powerful counters while avoiding Tyson's power. And another thing that Buster had in common with Evander, neither of those two were intimidated whatsoever. Mike's mental attack, the intimidation, did not work at all against Buster or Holyfield. Not one bit. Okay? And Frank Bruno. In the first fight, Bruno used his size and strong jab to keep Tyson at range, although he ultimately lost. Now, his approach highlighted the importance of using height and reach. These fighters effectively utilized movement, jabbing, and counterpunching, similar to Holyfield's tactics, to neutralize Tyson's aggressive style. Okay? And how come Mike Tyson and Riddick Bowe never fought? Again, glad y'all asked. Yep, Tyson and Riddick Bowe never fought. Now, somewhere somebody said because they were in kindergarten together. The hell they got to do with anything? Oh, we was in kindergarten, I can't fight him. That's worse than the friendship card. But how come Riddick Bowe and Mike Tyson never fought? Let's talk about that. How come Tyson and Bowe never fought? Now, they were in grade school together. Yeah, but that ain't no reason to not fight. Damn. But I think Tyson said because they were friends. But how come Mike Tyson and Riddick Bowe never fought? Let's talk about it. Let's find out. There they are. I don't know why that keeps going. Okay, there we go. Yeah, how come Tyson and Bowe never fought? It's almost link time, too. Working out beautifully. Now, Oh, that's not what I was looking for. It's supposed to came right up. Bear with me for a minute. There it is. Okay. How come Tyson and BOWE never fought? Now, Mike Tyson and Riddick BOWE never fought for several reasons, primarily related to timing and promotional issues. Okay. Primarily timing and promotional issues, and that's crazy. Okay, number one, timing. Tyson and BOWE were both prominent heavyweight boxers during the early to mid 1990s, but their careers did not overlap in a way that allowed for a fight to materialize. Now, Tyson was at his peak in the late 1980s, while BOWE rose to prominence in the early 1990s. Number two, promotional conflicts. Now, Tyson was promoted by Don King, while BOWE was with a different promotional team. This often complicated negotiations for high-profile fights, especially in the heavyweight division. Yeah, we had all that way back then too, you know. Different promoters didn't want to work with the other one and all, but they didn't call it the sides of the street then. I think Timothy Bradley started calling it the sides of the street when he was ducking Earl Spence. Okay, yeah. But yeah, promotional issues had a lot to do with it too. Number three, Tyson's legal troubles. That factored in big time. Now, if he hadn't went to prison, they probably would have fought. Tyson's imprisonment in the early 1990s interrupted his career and created a gap during which BOWE was active and became the undisputed heavyweight champion. So, you know, when BOWE and Holyfield had those fights, Tyson probably, instead of a BOWE Holyfield rematch, it might have been Tyson in there, right? Because Tyson might have been in there somewhere, right? But Tyson's imprisonment had a lot to do with them not fighting. Okay. Then Tyson's legal troubles. As for who would win in a hypothetical matchup, opinions vary. Now, Mike Tyson was known for his explosive power, speed, and aggressive style. Tyson was a fearsome opponent, especially in his prime. His ability to deliver quick combinations and knockouts made him one of the most dangerous fighters in history. Now, Riddick BOWE. BOWE was a skilled boxer with a strong jab, good footwork, and the ability to fight at range. His size and reach may have gave him an advantage, and he was known for his resilience and ability to take a punch. Yeah, BOWE had a strong chin, had a very good chin. Now, in a hypothetical matchup, many analysts suggest that Tyson's speed and power would give him the edge early in the fight, while BOWE's size and boxing skills might allow him to withstand Tyson's initial onslaught and potentially take control later on. Now, ultimately, the outcome would depend on various factors, including each fighter's strategy and condition on fight night. Okay. Now, what impact did their, and then we're going to go a little deeper in a minute, but what impact did their rivalry have on boxing? Riddick BOWE and Mike Tyson. What impact did the rivalry have? Now, the rivalry between Mike Tyson and Riddick BOWE, while never realized in the ring, had a notable impact on boxing history in several ways. Same as him and Lennox, promotional dynamics. Their inability to fight highlighted the complexities of boxing promotions. It underscored how promotional conflicts could prevent major matchups, influencing how promoters approach negotiations today. Era of heavyweights. Tyson and BOWE represented the transition in heavyweight boxing from the late 1980s to the 1990s. Their contrasting styles and careers helped define that era and set the stage for future heavyweight champions. Okay, we're we're going to look at a little bit deeper into the BOWE Tyson matchup and how it would have went. Okay, a little bit deeper into that. How it would have went, what some other fighters and other boxing personalities, other boxing people thought about BOWE and Tyson. Okay, we're going to take a look at that. Okay. Oh my goodness, what happened? Okay, there we go. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Very quick. Because it's 3:26. Man, time flies when you're having fun. I thought it was like 2:15. 3:26. Wow. I thought I had been on here like 10 minutes. I've been on here like an hour and a half, man. Now, who would have won between Mike Tyson and Riddick Bowe? Okay. Now, the vast majority of experts believe Riddick Bowe at his best defeats Mike Tyson at his best. That includes Evander Holyfield, who fought both of them. Okay? Yeah. Evander picked Bowe when he was asked about it. Now, Riddick Bowe says point blank that Mike Tyson avoided him because Tyson knew he could not defeat Riddick Bowe. Period. That's what Riddick said. Now, was Riddick right? Yes, he probably was. He probably was. Riddick also said, Mike knew with me being a good big man with a good left hand, I'd have been a lot of trouble for him. Right? Because like they say a lot of times, a good big man beats a good little man. And in July 2016, wait a minute. Now, Holyfield beat Mike twice, right? Both said, I beat Holyfield twice. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure out I would have beat him with ease. No disrespect. He was smart. He knew he couldn't win. But you know, that triangle theory don't work because like styles make fights, okay? Like Thomas Hill would say, styles make Mickey Fricky fights, okay? So Riddick, I don't agree with that. Holyfield beat Mike twice. Riddick beat Holyfield twice. That means absolutely nothing. Now Mike says in April, it was never that. In April 1994, a year or so before leaving prison, Mike Tyson, as a guest on CNN's Larry King Live, said he would return to boxing, but didn't think he would fight ex-heavyweight boxing champion Riddick Bowe because the two were friends. Mike played the friendship card. But what if Bowe and Mike had met in 1991 when both were top contenders? Now, a lot of people think Bowe would have beaten up and stopped the 1991 post-Rooney Mike Tyson. Bowe with Eddie Futch was on the rise, and Tyson, without Kevin Rooney, was going downhill. And Bowe at that point was too big and too good. Everything Buster Douglas did to Mike, Bowe could do a whole lot better. Okay? I don't know about that either. That Buster Douglas, that night to beat Mike Tyson might have beat Riddick Bowe. Okay? But skill for skill, I would say Bowe was a little better than Buster. Okay? But anyway. Riddick Bowe at his best with Eddie Futch was a generationally good fighter. A prime Riddick Bowe, one in shape and trained by the great Eddie Futch, would have been a threat to beat any fighter, including George Foreman or Lennox Lewis, any fighter in that era. 6'5" with an 81-inch reach. An in-shape Bowe weighed 235. He was an excellent fundamental boxer. He had a great chin, power in both hands, and could fight inside or outside. Okay? Inside or outside. And he would have been a stern test for any fighter who ever lived, that Riddick Bowe. Now, Bowe had a deadly powerful jab that he used to control his fights and beat up his opponent long distance. And he also used it as a key to a very good defense. Evander Holyfield said this about Riddick Bowe. Bowe had the best jab. He was consistent with it. Lennox kind of had a good jab, right? But Bowe used his for offense and defense. And at any given time, he used the left hand. Bowe's career numbers was impressive. 43-1 with 33 knockouts, with 74% knockout ratio. Okay, yeah, that Holyfield, that Holyfield fight was the only one he lost. Of course, he was losing to Andrew Galata twice, but Andrew kept going south of the border. So Andrew got disqualified twice. That's 76.7% knockout ratio. 74 was, I thought that was a little low. 76.7%, closer to 80, not bad. Okay. Now, and Bowe was the undisputed world heavyweight champion of the world, defeating Hall of Fame all-time heavyweight Evander Holyfield in 2 out of their 3 matchups. Now, when Eddie first left, all discipline left with him. When Eddie first left Bowe, all the discipline went with Eddie. And Bowe's enormous talent and promise went along with Eddie Futch when he left, okay? Now, Bowe is one of the saddest stories in boxing. Physically, he had it all. Size, strength, speed, power, great technique, inside and outside game, and a solid chin. Had he met Lennox Lewis with Futch in his corner, as they signed to do in 1994, and had he won, which Futch believed he could, he would be ranked higher all time. Yeah, because everybody, when everybody say that Riddick Bowe ducked it when he threw the belt in the trash in 92, they had a fight signed after that 94. But like I said earlier, before they could fight, Lennox Lewis fought Oliver McCall and got beat, and a lot of the luster went away. And no promoter would put the money up for the fight after that, right? Without a title on the line, okay? So, yeah, they never fought. Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis. Now, Eddie Futch said, at one point, I thought Riddick could be the best heavyweight I ever trained. And considering Eddie Futch trained Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, Larry Holmes, that is a stunning summary of what Bowe could have been, right? Emanuel Stewart went further. He said Bowe at his peak with Futch was a perfect heavyweight. That's what Emanuel Stewart said about him. And Emanuel trained Lennox Lewis. And Emanuel said this story about when Bowe was fighting Jesse Ferguson. Emanuel was at the fight, and Emanuel was training, I think he was training Holyfield then, and that was going to be Bowe's next fight. And Emanuel said, here's Sinead. What's up, Sinead? That's my daughter. She says H-A, ha. Okay. You hit the like, Sinead? Make sure you hit the like, Sinead. Okay, let's continue. Okay, that's my oldest daughter there. Okay, now where were we? Emanuel Stewart said Bowe looked so good that night that in the post-fight press conference, I mentioned to Eddie Futch and Rock Newman, Bowe's manager. I said he looked like he became a complete, perfect fighter, and I didn't even know how the hell I was going to even train Evander Holyfield to beat him. Emanuel said Bowe looked so good, he was doing everything. His jabs, the uppercuts, combinations, he was just doing everything. Emanuel said he didn't even know how he was going to train Emanuel to beat him. And Emanuel Stewart, Lennox Lewis's trainer, said, at his best, BOWE was better than Lennox. Okay, and Emmanuel trained Lennox. Okay, he said at his best, BOWE was better than Lennox. Okay, so, very interesting. Yeah, Emmanuel said BOWE had a little slight edge in the skill area. Okay, the Holyfield was asked who was the better fighter between BOWE and Lennox Lewis. Holyfield fought both of them. Holyfield said, I would say BOWE. And Holyfield went further. He faced all the great fighters of his age, Tyson, BOWE, and Lewis. And when asked which was best, Holyfield said, again, I would say BOWE. Mike Tyson at his absolute best the night he destroyed Michael Spinks. Now, Mike Tyson never had a prime. A boxer hits his prime around 29, and Mike had long lost his paramount skills by that time. We can only guess how much better he would have been had he stayed focused, stayed with his team, and actually trained. Okay? Kevin Rooney tells what it was like up to Spinks, Don King, and Robin Gibbons with Mike Tyson. You know, Kevin Rooney said, we go to a health club at night, then we go to bed. When he was with me, there was no partying. There was no, he said Tyson worked, there was no, I worked hard, I'm going to go have a few drinks and try to pick up a girl. That never happened. And as Kevin Rooney said, speed kills, and Mike had speed, unbelievable speed. Okay, but to make a long story short, most boxing experts would pick Riddick Bowe over Mike Tyson. Okay, so let's get some link time. Close out like the last 20 minutes or so of the show, and then continue this as we go. Okay. Appreciate everybody. We got Shanae, Ant McQueen, Al Booger, Mike Mazik, Define Arnie, Mike Rim, Just Do Boxing, Crush the Legend, and Miss Cass in the building. Okay, we're gonna chop it up for like 20 minutes and we get on out of here. For Just Do to come on in. Next, bring us at balanced, unbiased boxing talk. That's what Just Do Boxing gonna do, right? Because everybody gets their Just Do over there. Okay, let me get this link on in here. How's everybody today? What is it, Thursday? No, Tuesday. What am I talking about? It's Tuesday. I done knocked out like 2 days. We got Washington, D.C. for boxing in the States as we wind it down. It's only 3 states left. Well, of course, Washington is not a state, but, you know, it's got a good boxing history and some good boxers that came out of there, so we're going to do it. We got Lamont Roach, I know. The Russells, they're actually from outside of D.C., but close enough, right? And we're going to find some other ones by Thursday. And then Friday is going to be Marco Antonio Barrera. It's going to be the profile this week. One of the 4 kings of the 2000s. We did all the rest of them, remember? Manny Pacquiao and Eric Morales. Who was the other one? Manny Pacquiao, Eric Morales. Juan Manuel Marquez. I always forget Juan Manuel. I don't know how I forget Juan Manuel, man. Wow. Yeah, he was the 4th king. They all fought, right? 13 different fights between those guys. I think the only combination was Eric Morales and Juan Manuel Marquez, right, Define Arnie? I think it was those 2. Morales and Marquez didn't fight, but all the other combinations between those 4 got in there. 13 fights altogether between them. More than the original 4 kings. The original 4 kings had 9, remember? One of those yesterday. Yeah. Those four kings had 2,000. No. What am I talking about? 2013. 13 fights between them. Yeah. Great series of fights. And Barrera is going to be Friday. Marco Antonio Barrera is the profile this week. It's a nice long. I like those nice long ones. Yeah. That's what we're doing this week. So yeah, we still early in this big week of boxing history. Cass Sports, the Box Historian, bringing you all that boxing history. What was I doing? Oh, I supposed to have been dropping the link. I was sitting there talking and never even made a move toward dropping the link, but here we go right now. Damn. And I'm going to continue with Mike Tyson and Riddick Bowe a little bit. Yeah, that's it. Damn. Okay. Yeah, but most experts and historians say that Bowe, good big man beats a good little man. What they say? Then the Mike was a power puncher of appalling speed, hand speed, constant movement, and power, who threw punches in bunches with bad intentions while maintaining superb defense. His defense is underrated because he was such an offensive fighter, getting them up out of there so fast that a lot of people overlooked his defense, right? But he was a good defensive fighter. Yeah, I was right. Morales Marquez was the only matchup that didn't happen. Yeah, but Mike had good defense. Good defense. And people who never saw him fight, who never understood boxing in the first place, cannot tell the difference between a volume boxer puncher and a single shot headhunter like Deontay Wilder, right? Mike was a volume boxer puncher. Deontay Wilder, a single shot headhunter. Now, Mike had an enormous willingness to work, devoting himself not just to the gym, but spending countless hours as a teenager in Customato's film library, watching thousands of hours of film of other fighters. He studied the old masters, especially Jack Dempsey, whom he modeled his style after. Now, that was pre-Don King. That was pre-Don King when he did all that. When Don King came in, all that went out the window. Now, Mike had superb training. First Teddy Atlas, then Kevin Rooney trained him. D'Amato himself spent time in the film room with him, talking about styles, fights, and fighters. Rooney, in particular, crafted Mike from a raw beginner to a deadly boxer of extraordinary quality. Yet by the time Mike came around and time to train Mike, Cuss had got kind of old, so he assigned the training part to Teddy Atlas and Kevin Rooney, because Cuss was way back in the 50s training. He trained Floyd Patterson way back in the 50s, right? So when it came time for Mike, he had Kevin Rooney, Teddy Atlas, and they did an excellent job with him. Kevin Rooney mainly. Now, Kevin Rooney himself has been very candid about what happened with Mike and the differences in Tyson as a fighter before and after the years he had Rooney in his original team. Well, Rooney worked with Tyson from the start of his career up to the Michael Spinks fight. That was his last fight with him, the Michael Spinks fight, right? And Tyson was trained to be and was a volume combination boxer puncher. Rooney said, Mike punched fast and hard. That's a difficult combination to deal with, especially when those fast punches come in bunches, in good, solid combinations. So let's talk about it. The best of Riddick Bowe against the best of Mike Tyson. How would that go? Now, Bowe would have Eddie Futch in his corner with him. Okay? So for anyone who is not familiar with Eddie Futch's work, he was a genius at teaching and training fighters. Okay? Futch was a teacher Futch was also a protector of his fighters if they were hurt, right? Witness his stopping the Thriller in Manila. Joe Frazier and Joe Frazier and who was it? Who did Joe Frazier fight in the Thriller in Manila? Muhammad Ali, I knew. I was just messing with y'all. Bear with me for one moment, please. Memento. Oh shit, that was yesterday. Wait a minute. My bad. Damn. Oh my goodness. My bad. I don't know what. This. Oh shit! That's you're right, Define on it. I'm sorry. Damn. My bad. My bad. Okay, bear with me for another moment, please. It's the first time I messed up in a long time. I was wondering why nobody came. I see why now. Okay, sorry about that, Define, Arnie. Sorry about that. We still got like 10, 12 minutes to chop it up. Yeah, but yeah, like they say, does a good big man really beat a good small man? I don't know. There we go. We did a great Eddie Futch. He stopped the Thriller in Manila because Joe Frazier was blind in both eyes and still wanting to come out and fight. So Eddie Futch believed in protecting his fighters. And, like I said, Eddie Futch, Ali lost 5. Eddie Futch was in the corner for 4. 4 of Ali's 5 losses, right? Eddie Futch was the opposing trainer. Yes, he was. I think it was Holmes, Joe Frazier, Larry Holmes, Joe Frazier, Trevor Berbick, and Ken Norton. I think Spinks was the only one. What's up, Define? Spinks was the only one that beat Ali that wasn't an Eddie Futch trained fighter.
How you doing today?
Okay. How are you today, sir? Good to see you.
Appreciate it. You too. So did you watch some of the fights on the weekend or?
Last weekend? No, I didn't see any fights last weekend at all.
Angelo Leo.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. I missed him. And I like Angelo Leo.
I like him too. I wasn't too impressed with his performance, but he pulled it off. And
did he get a decision?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Josh Taylor.
Yeah, Josh.
They're saying he's finished, but I'm not so sure.
Oh no!
I mean,
okay.
Why do you
say that? Why do you say that?
Rounds,
He looked good to you?
For the first part of the fight, You know, he looked pretty good, and then
Yeah.
Eko Esuman took over, and he rightfully lost. Like, don't get me wrong, but you know, I don't think he's finished. You know, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people were saying that Josh might lose that fight. Yeah. It was a decision, right?
Yes.
Okay. Why you say he's not finished though?
I mean, because I think he did some things. You know, like for example, when Regis Prograis fought Jack Arrow.
Yeah.
You know, he did some good things. You know,
Okay.
so and I think he was his first fight at welterweight also.
Oh, that was at 147? Okay.
Yeah.
Josh moved up. Okay. Yeah. So, hey, if he went to 147, I don't think he's finished neither. I don't think he thinks he's finished. You know, he wouldn't just move up for just one fight, you know? Yeah.
I think he moved up way too late. I think.
I know. I agree with that. Yeah. He should have been up there. Yeah. When he first started talking about fighting Bud, that was like 2023 or something. That was before the Earl Bud fight.
Right.
He should have been up there around that time, I think, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say after the Jose Ramirez fight. Probably.
Right around in there. Yep. Exactly. Right around that time frame. Because Josh was huge, man. You know?
Oh, yeah. He was right up there by that time.
Yeah. He probably could have made 147 easy back then, you know?
Yeah, and then all that training he did just to make weight, you know, that.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to take some time, or maybe he needs to a couple of fights against lower competition just to like get his confidence back or whatever. He's been through a lot of wars. So.
The guy he fought Saturday, I don't know too much about him. Where was he ranked at? The guy he fought Saturday.
I don't remember. I think it was 7 or 8 or something.
I didn't know too much about that guy. Yeah.
Me neither.
But yeah, a lot of people were saying Josh might lose that one, man. Wow. When is that Savannah Marshall and Shadeja Green fight? Is that July?
That's a good question.
I thought that was last weekend. I was looking for it. Yeah, it didn't happen. Yeah. What we got this weekend, Define? I haven't even checked it out. What's going on this weekend?
I think it's something good. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, this is what is it? Maybe what will it be?
Isn't it the Edwin de los Santos and Keishon?
Oh, is that this weekend? Oh man.
Maybe not. Give me a second.
Man, I know it's soon. It's coming up. That's a good card too. That's a very good card. I'm gonna check now and see what we got. But yeah, that is a very good card.
Another card that I think is going to be really good is the Berlanga Shida.
Yeah, that's a good one too. When is that? That's June. When?
July.
July. Okay.
But
that's the one.
Keishon and Edwin de los Santos is Saturday, June 7th. So no, it's the other one.
Sakura and Zepeda is on the Berlanga card, right?
Oh yeah, and also Matias versus Cuello and David Morrell also.
Oh man. All those could be main events, man.
Versus Imam Kataib. Oh yeah.
All those guys been in main events before, you know? Yeah.
Most of them been champions before.
That's right. Okay, Eduardo Nunez is fighting this weekend.
Oh, Sugar Nunez,
yeah. He's fighting Mazunori Rikishi. He's
over in Japan?
To Japan to fight him, yeah. How did they get all those guys to come over? Well, the title is vacant. They're going for the IBF junior.
Yeah, that's the title that Anthony Kakache left vacant so they can fight Lee Wood for more money.
Okay, and they got a lot of Japanese fighters on there on the card.
Oh yeah.
That's Saturday. That's not too bad.
From like 130 on down or 135 on down, Japan is pretty much a dynasty. Yeah.
I can't wait till August for that Monster and MJ fight.
Oh my goodness, I'm so looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss that one.
Oh, May 31st. When is May 31st? Is that this weekend?
Yeah, Saturday.
Caleb Plant, Jamal Charlo making his comeback. Oh, I forgot about that. Okay,
Jamal
that's
Charlo versus Thomas Lamana and Caleb
yeah,
Plant versus Resendez.
yeah.
Oh
So
man.
that's something to look forward to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, Charlo's been away forever.
Be interesting to see him. Kermel Moten's on there too, on that card. The young guy.
Oh yeah, I saw his last fight against Saldin, but it was pretty good.
Tyrone Davis, that shouldn't be too bad of a card this weekend.
Yeah, Tyrone Davis is pretty good also.
Mhm.
He fought David Benavides and all the rest of them. So.
Yeah, he did. What you think about
Also,
a lot of people?
Jairo Petaya is fighting on the same weekend that Keishon and De Los Santos. I'm sorry.
Oh, is he? The same weekend? Okay. What's up, Ant?
Chilling, man. You see Tyrone
Yeah.
most recently upset the young Elijah Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
So they had high hopes for him, and Tyrone Davis came in and did business.
Oh, yeah, they did have high hopes for Elijah.
Tyrone is always in a good fight. He's always going to give a great account of himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fine irony, I mentioned the David Benavides fight. That was a fight where he came up from 154 on short notice.
Mm.
The fight David Benavides at 168.
Mm-hmm.
Lost the battle of attrition, but
Yeah.
he laid it all on the line. He was no slouch.
Yes, he did.
He probably gave David Benavides one of his more competitive fights up until that point. So
Up to that point, yeah. He did.
Can't sleep on that dude, Tyrone. Well, Chiron,
No.
pardon me. I think the E is silent. Tyrone Davis. So
Yeah.
That dude is definitely a dog.
Yeah, that's this weekend.
Yes, sir. Oh man, before we go any further,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say get well soon to Shigeoka, man. That was rough.
Oh, okay.
He was in the IBF title fight this past weekend
Yeah.
against Doran, and it was on that Pro Box card. They were in the co-main to Leo versus El Mexicanito.
Yeah.
And the dude collapsed in the ring after the fight.
Mm.
Yeah, they had to stretcher him out. Yeah.
Damn.
He had brain surgery this morning.
Oh, man.
Good.
Damn. Wow.
That's Shigeoka. Shigeoka.
Yeah.
And that was a grueling fight 2 times because this is the rematch. The first fight he got stopped and knocked.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ran it back with this dude, and this time he's fighting for his life right now.
Damn.
That was Taduran. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that one. That was a rough one because he was competitive, but Taduran was the one consistently landing the sharper shots, bro. Like, you can tell, like, that they were. I mean, I never thought that they were gonna have to stretcher him out because it didn't seem that way to me. So that definitely surprised me. But he overpowered him basically. Taduran just overpowered Shigeoka. That being said, man.
It's not like them Rocky movies where a guy gets hit with one shot and you get up out of there and then you get wailed out. It's one of those fights. Like the same thing happened with Patrick Day, God bless his soul. Maxim Dedishev when he fought against Subriel Matias.
Oh yeah.
These guys, they get in these grueling fights and they go to distance.
That's what does it.
Into a coma after the fight. That's generally how it happens.
Yeah. It was
the volume of punishment that is way more dangerous than like one hitter.
That's what does it. Yep, you're right. Mm-hmm. There was a Japanese guy last year that happened to. He was on the monster card. It might have been 2023.
No, that was last year.
Was it last year 24, right? Yeah. On the monster card.
He was like 22, 23 years old. Young guy, he was a baby. Slipped into a coma. He didn't make it.
Yeah, he eventually passed away. Yep. I forgot his name. Mm-hmm. Same thing, volume of punches. After the
Fight
fight,
distance
he was in
also.
his corner, remember, and he said he couldn't walk straight or something. Yep.
Yeah,
And it's
looking at
been
Shigeoka at the end, man. When they were announcing the winner, Shigeoka was standing there, he was looking dazed, and his tongue was just hanging out of his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Then he just collapsed in the ring.
Wow. Man. And he had brain surgery this morning, huh?
Yep.
Damn. Well,
been a rough week for boxing, bro. Nino Benvenuti passed the other day, and also
Benvenuti did he? I didn't know that.
From cancer.
yeah, like 4 days ago.
Nino Benvenuti?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know he had passed away. Wow, I would have did something on him. Okay.
Also, a UK boxer, very young. Man, where did I see that? What is her name?
Yeah, I'm gonna do something on Nino tomorrow then. Cause yeah.
Sure. Yeah, he fought Monzon a couple of times, just couldn't quite get over the hump.
Yeah, he was a top name back then. I think he was champion, wasn't he? Nino?
Oh, Georgia O'Connor is her name. 3-0 pro, decorated amateur, died of cancer 5 days ago. It's been a rough week for boxing, bro, to say the least.
For sure. Wow. Man.
Hey, and like I said in the chat, I appreciate the Orlando Cañizales recommendation, bro. That dude looks like, the truth,
my
bro.
Lord. I watched about 3 of his fights this morning.
Mm-hmm.
One against Paul Gonzalez. Well, the rematch against Paul Gonzalez.
Yeah.
He came out, man, split the guy's eye within 30 seconds.
Damn. Wow.
The fight was waved off by the second.
Yeah. Definitely gonna watch some of his fights for sure.
His footwork, man, the movement is just beautiful.
Oh yeah. Beautiful. Oh yeah. How he creates angles and changes directions and catches people while they're resetting, oh man, that's major league stuff right there.
See, but it's guys like him, Ricardo Lopez, Manuel Marquez, Salvador Sanchez.
Oh yeah.
I think at some point in time, folks really need to have a dialogue about that whole flat-footed Mexican stereotype. And you got guys that were just that brilliant. Ruben Olivares is another one, like, could box his ass off. But for whatever reason, they've just been tagged as these flat-footed, rock'em sock'em robots.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of Mexican fighters that were, like, brilliant boxers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I mean, they, in my opinion, because I am a member in a Mexican channel, like they've discussed this somewhat, and I think what they would say to that is, like, they wouldn't deny it. Obviously, there are some pleasant exceptions, like the names you just mentioned, but by and large, I think the scale gets tipped in the way of the, I don't like to say flat-footed because that to me is kind of unfair, because can you say Chavez was flat-footed really? Not really, like, but like the come forward brawler, overpower style is the, I think, the overwhelming majority,
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's on a club level though. I believe that's on a club level. When you look at the guys who have really excelled, the ones that we look at, the guys that are in the history book.
Yeah.
That's not them. And then conversely, I can say the same thing about the whole slick black fighter thing, right? Like,
same thing, yeah.
James Kirkland is not a slick black fighter. Julian Jackson, Dynamite Power, he's not slick.
Oh, the Hawk. Oh my God.
The Hawk is a hell of a puncher, but he wasn't slick.
No, not at all.
Getting with him,
no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You can go down the list of guys that just weren't slick. You know what I'm saying? We talking about Hall of Fame. Winky Wright, damn good defensive fighter, but he wasn't slick.
He wasn't slick either, no.
Straightforward. It's just high guard, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No different than Joshua Claudio or somebody else. But for whatever reason, black fighters, and I think it's more of like a cultural thing, because when you think about blackness in itself, you think of like rhythm and smoothness and just all of the contributions that Black people have made to Western society as far as like music and things of that sort.
Yeah, they get put in that, shoved in that category.
I think it's like what first jumps to mind, and I think it's a good reason for that, right? Like, for example, when you think about American great black fighters, I mean, you can't help but to think about Sugar Ray's, both of them, and Muhammad Ali.
That's true.
Before you think about anything or anybody else, you know. So
right
I think when you Mexican boxing, you can't help but to. In my opinion, the greatest to me will always be Salvador Sanchez, but in general, they will tell you it's Chavez.
Chavez, yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. Same thing for Argentina. I've contended many times that Argentina has a lot of quality and a lot of slickness, but the first name that comes to mind is Carlos Monzon.
Yeah,
for example.
Carlos.
You know? I think it's just, but I think you're right. I mean, obviously, that's a bad label to have, you know, and it's not even true. So you're absolutely right.
For me, Argentina is Lochi, man. Oh my Lord. That guy's beyond smooth. I love watching him fight. It's ridiculous. Like,
call him the untouchable.
I can't think of too many fighters past or present.
Yeah, Nicolino Loche.
That was just like that efficient mechanically. Like the slightest step, like he never moved any more than what he had to.
But he had to, yeah.
When he's slipping punches, he's getting his head just off the line. Punches are whizzing by.
Just enough.
Yeah. He's like right there.
The untouchable. Yep.
No, that dude was unreal.
You gotta watch him a lot.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Ridiculous.
I love watching him. Yeah.
They got a lady boxer out of Argentina that fights somewhat similar to him.
Recently.
Yeah, she fought against Mizuki. And that was a hell of a technical fight. Like, for the people out there that like the technical fight, I would say go back and watch that fight. It was, I'm about to tell you what her name is right now.
Okay. I'm gonna check that out probably this afternoon.
That's strictly for the hardcore, though. You know, the people who like Rocket Tiger Robots, that's not for you.
Right.
It's not for you. Yeah, Mizuki Haruta, that was girl from Japan. She's pretty damn good too. Carla Marino, that's her name. Carla Marino.
Marino, got it.
She fighter out of Argentina.
Moreno. Marino.
Merino.
Okay, I got it.
Define irony. If you check out, I think she'll be like right up your alley.
Okay.
Like, she's measured. She's measured. She comes forward, but she's in range. Like, everything is super duper responsible. I love the way that she layers her offense. You know, it's like body and head, body, taking whatever's available.
Carla La Muñeca Merino.
Doubling up on one side, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I found her. Absolutely.
She is good.
I'm gonna check her out. Yeah.
I didn't know about her.
But
Me neither. A lot of women fighters I'm gonna have to check out. I just basically know that, you know, the big name ones, but it's a lot of good women's fighters out there now, you know.
Yes, they are.
It's worth checking out. Yeah.
The Dubois sister, the Fondora sister.
Gabriela Fondora.
Gabriela, yeah, man. She is nice. She undisputed already.
I've seen some female boxing, you know, not too much, but I've seen Katie and Amanda. I've seen Katie and Chantel. One of the two, not the two fights, but one of the two.
They got one coming up again, right? Katie and Amanda.
Oh yeah, they got the trilogy.
Yeah, that's the card I think Savannah Marshall and Shadeja Green is on, I believe.
I have no idea. I haven't researched it.
But that'll be good. I'm glad they did that, because when Katie won the first two, I didn't think they was going to do a trilogy, but it's worth. I'm going to watch it, you know.
Yeah, no, I don't want to hear people saying, it makes no sense if Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense because none of the two wins were. I mean, both of those two wins
Convincing.
were
That's right.
controversial as HOLYFIELD.
That's right. Yeah. I'm glad they did that. Yeah. That would be good. I thought Amanda
Oh
won.
yeah, you're right. You're right. It's okay. So we got a couple. I think it's an all-female card because
Is that
co-main
all
is
female?
Alicia Baumgartner versus Jennifer Miranda.
Okay.
And the fight before that one is Savannah versus Shadasia Green.
Woo. Oh, that's on the
Chantel
same
Cameron.
card?
Yeah, Chantel Cameron is there too.
Wow.
Ramla Ali is. I don't know if she's related to Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I
but
heard of her.
there
Yeah.
also.
Mhm.
And also
Wow.
Ellie Scotty
good.
versus Jamileth Merker. All female card. Even the prelims.
That's a Jake Paul thing. Yeah.
When is
I just
this?
wish they would give him the 3 minutes in the 12 rounds, you know?
I agree. That extra minute matters a lot.
Yeah, man. It really does. You don't get that middle minute. You know, you get the first minute and then you got another minute and that's it. That affects the way you fight too, you know, your strategy and everything, man.
Completely.
That's crazy. I never understood what the reasoning was that they, you know, that they don't.
That will favor Katie Taylor because that way she can just.
You think would favor Katie?
Without a doubt, because you don't have that extra minute to knock her out. She's been wobbled multiple times by Amanda.
So you mean the extra minute would favor Amanda, right? The 12 minutes.
Without a doubt.
That's what I was saying. Oh, I thought you meant the 10 minute.
Oh, no, I'm
favor
sorry.
Katie, right? The 10-2 favor Katie.
Oh yeah, she can
Because
just
I
circle
thought
the ring.
Amanda might have got her in that 5th round in that first fight if she would have had that extra minute. Remember?
Exactly.
She had her on the ropes, man. And then the round ended, you know.
Yeah,
she might not have got it, but I think she would have had a very good chance at it, you know.
Because she can steal the fight that way. She can just circle the ring for most of those 2 minutes and then do a combination here and there, and
that's it.
You know,
it's
she's
over.
getting the decision. You know,
change your whole strategy. And it's fast too, man. You know,
you can do to her what Leonard did to Hagler.
Yep, stole all the rounds. Yeah, Leonard said he told Angelo Dundee every time at 30 seconds to holler out to him at the 32nd.
Yeah, to smack the smack the canvas, so he knows, so he can go in there with the machine
all
gun.
kind of combinations and stuff.
Yeah,
they look good to the judges, you know.
Leonard is honest. I gotta give him that. I mean, as great as he is, obviously, like, but he's really honest with a lot of things. Like he never in a million years would have given him the rematch. I mean, he said all these things.
Yeah,
you know, like
because you know Hagler tried for like 14 months, and then when he retired, Leonard came back a month later.
Yes, because he saw that wasn't the same dude anymore. You know, he was like already like thinking about next things and whatever. And he's like, if I'm gonna get him, it's now or never.
It's now, because he was commentating on the Mugabe fight, and he said Mugabe had a lot of success against Hagler, and then, so he had slowed down and everything. And like you said, he was said, now's the time. And I still think Hagler beat him though, but I don't know. That fight will always be debated. That was like 40 years ago. We still debate it to this day. You know,
amazing.
One of them ones. But you know, that 30-second strategy worked for Leonard too. He did steal some of those rounds with that strategy too. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But you know, one thing happened. I talked about it yesterday. The Hagler's team vetoed one judge, right, and replaced him. So that judge watched and scored the fight at home, and he gave it to Hagler. So he should have kept it.
Oh man,
Hindsight is 20/20 vision, you know. Hindsight is 20/20 vision. Ain't that something? The one
I'm
day
gonna watch it again.
He gave the fight to Hagler. Yeah, at home. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about watching again. Yeah, Hagler and Leonard. Yeah. But what else you got? You find on it? We're gonna get ready to jump off.
No, that's pretty much it. I appreciate you as always, and God bless, and see you next time.
Yeah, we get to talking and I lose all track of time. But yeah, I appreciate you, fine, Arnie.
You too.
Good stuff, man. I'll catch you on the next one. All right, that was Define Arnie 1, and we had Aunt McQueen up here too from the Casuals Corner. You know, you have not watched the fight until you watch one after a casual's corner breakdown. Okay, Just Do Boxing is up next. I think we're gonna do something on Nino Benvenuti tomorrow. Arnie just made me aware that he had passed away recently. So yeah, we're gonna do something on him tomorrow. Nino Benvenuti, great middleweight fighter, fought the great King Carlos Monzon. And yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay. But I appreciate everybody for coming through today. Shanae, Aunt McQueen, Al Booger, Mike Mazik, Define Arnie, Mike Rim, Just Do Boxing, Crush the Legend, and Miss Cass. And I'll see you tomorrow. Because if it's Monday through Friday at 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Just Do Boxing is in progress. This is Cass Sports. Appreciate y'all 1,000%. Everybody have a great afternoon.